with the market being so crazy right now, I think something that just needs to be talked about just a little is slowing down. Now, we're going to talk about a few examples, and just if you're newer to the hobby, just know that right now things are crazy and insane, and we're going to talk about this slowpoke right now. Now, this is the slowpoke from Scarlet and Violet base. It's a nice looking card. I've always liked this card. He's real derpy looking, and he's just chilling on a street, right? And this card's up 280%. A lot like the Drowsy that we just recently talked about. Now, just when you look at this, do you think, that this is a $40 card? In my opinion, I don't really think this is a $40 card. Not that this card can't have value, and like I said, not that this card isn't nice, but this is an illustration rare with a lot of copies available currently on TCG Player, right? Over 100 copies. It is from a set that had easier pull rates. Scarlet and Violet based had easier pull rates. And, it shot up a lot recently. Okay, 3 months ago it was at $10. Maybe it was undervalued then, but then it was a $20 card. Makes a lot more sense, at or around that $20 price range, in my opinion. We look at the 1 month chart, you can see a ton of sales right here on the way up. And the reason I'm bringing this up is just to exercise a little bit of caution and try not to FOMO as hard in the market. Just because you see a card shoot up doesn't mean that it's going to just keep going up. Once again, not that this is not a nice artwork card, but once again, we'll use the example of the Drowsy. So the Drowsy was shooting up. It was crazy. It has come down. You can, back here it was a $30 card. And then it shot up big to around 85. We had sales higher than 85 during that period as well, so keep that in mind. Right, 85, and then it's come down. It's come down to 65. Now, in my opinion, I still don't think this is a $60 card. However, it has a more unique art style than the Slowpoke, in my opinion. So, there is a potential that maybe it was undervalued at the $30 mark potentially. I'm not sure. The market will decide. It will take some time. But my point being was I made the video and I was like, we talked about the Drowsy. I was like, you guys think this is an $80 card? I don't really think it's an $80 card, in my opinion. So, that's the, if you're like a diehard collector and you have to have these cards, then do what you got to do. But for me, and my advice would be when you see a lesser valued card in illustration rare shoot up crazy in value, I just want you guys just to stop and just think about it for a minute. That's all I'm asking with the Slowpoke. There's a lot of stuff going on in the market, a lot of manipulation, targeted buyouts, stuff like that. And like I said in the videos before, that doesn't mean that, this Drowsy now, wherever it lands up, wherever it stabilizes at, doesn't mean it's not going to stabilize higher than the $30 mark, right? We've seen it happen before. Like I said, we pulled up an article about the Greninja from Twilight Masquerade. They were saying that, that was the initial Greninja run-up was due to a buyout, and look where that card ended up, right? So you have to take everything with a grain of salt. Take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, right? Don't just take everything at, directly at face value. Do your own research and think about it and form your own opinion, right? I'm just trying to give you my 2 cents on the subject, right? So also when you start to look at this stuff too, I like to play a little bit of the comparison game, right? So you have your Drowsy now at 65. Let's say you do value the Slowpoke at 41, right? Which is if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. We'll see. Lowest listed right here is around 41 for the Slowpoke currently. But you start to play the comparison game, specifically the Drowsy. Once again, we'll talk about it. Say it when it was at the $85 price point. Then you go over here to this card, the Eevee, which the Eevee was at $88. Oh, actually, let's check the date just to make sure. February 18th. So we'll go to February 18th, which was right here, $95. So a little bit more expensive. That's when I go, hey, these things are not the same. Right? Extremely popular Pokemon. You guys are telling me Drowsy is a popular Pokemon? I don't think so. It was really funny. I was telling my wife, I was like, yeah, this Drowsy card shot up. And she was like, she knows Pokemon. She's not super into it, but she knows all the originals, and she was like, "Is Drowsy popular?" And before she could even finish her sentence, I kind of cut her off, and I was like, "No." But artwork can be a thing. This is a very unique artwork card, so I am acknowledging that, right? So there could be some potential there as well. But I was like, Drowsy, not a popular Pokemon. So when you start to compare to the Eevees, the known illustration rares that we have, right? It just doesn't compare. It doesn't add up personally. And then you even have cards like the Raichu, which you know I like the Sleepy Raichu from Paldea Evolved a lot. I think it's been a nice, and it's up right now 55%. It's come down from $58 down to around 50 currently. You can see the supplies around 150, right? So this is a $50 card. By comparison, do you think the Slowpoke should be remotely close to the Raichu? So that's where I go, okay, we're going to see something happen here. Comparatively, you got to do what you can, right? And then there's other examples as well of, a card that shot up. Once again, now this is a card I love. I love Houndoom. Not my favorite Pokemon, but Houndoom's up there as one of the really cool Pokemon that I like a lot. And this card had a big shoot up, right? It's still up 107% in the past 3 months. It went from around 20 and it went as high as 50, but you're seeing sales as high as 65 on TCG Player during this time right here. And then it's come down, and it hasn't come down crazy, right? But you can see back here from 55. So it's kind of flat on the month, right? From the 27th to the 25th right here. But you can see it's come down a decent amount, right? Off of this high. This was up 22%. So it's come down roughly 22% when this chart updates. We'll see where it continues to bottom out. There's a lot of copies available. But that doesn't mean that this card, isn't going to set, like I said, a higher low moving forward. But just keep in mind that if you were to have chased into the FOMO of this, right, it's just a little retrace. It's not as big, right, from just falling off from 50s to 40s. I'm just saying. But there's more potential, in my opinion, of a bigger fall off on a card like a Slowpoke or a card like a Drowsy, from 80 to 65. 85 to 65 right now, that's a $20 fall off, right? So keep that in mind. That's a $20 fall off. Whereas, something like the Houndoom made a little bit more sense to me that it was running up. Okay. But you still want to be cautious, a $10 fall off right here. And it could keep falling, right? There is potential. The point of this is just to exercise a little bit of caution and potentially, help educate some of the newers. We get new people in the hobby all the time. So if this isn't helping you, it's not beneficial. It's more for the new people, the new collectors, the new investors out there, right? This is a little bit too why, I don't invest in singles. I collect singles, right? And, there's a little bit of flipping of singles that I do a little bit with some grading. I'll grade some. If they come back at 10, I'll sell them. But I don't do a ton of that. It's mostly sealed because sealed is a little safer. Reprints can affect sealed, but, even after a reprint, the supply will always go down. While packs are being opened, supply of singles goes up, right? So, yeah, the Houndoom, is an example of a cool-off, not a big one. Okay. Then you have cards like the Ghastly. Now, the Ghastly is one of those ones where you can see a little bit less quantity, still higher. This is I would identify this as a nicer artwork of an extremely popular Pokemon, right? Because you not only have Ghastly, you have the Gengar, the Haunter, and even a little Meowth hiding in the corner here. Now, this is kind of more of the no-brainer identification of an easy illustration rare, like with the Eevee, the Raichu, popular Pokemon that you tend to identify as a good card. And this one is starting to shoot up again, right? Just going from 26 up to 57 currently. Now, if you zoom out and you look here, this did have some run-ups before after release. It did shoot up to around 30, came back down to 17. Back up to 33. Now, this is before the market popped off, right? So you have to understand, this is before the market went crazy. Then it came back down and settled around 20. And now it's continued to rise and continue to rise. Now, with this rise, we don't know where it's going to end up, but it did shoot up to 51, came back down to 48, and now we're seeing 57, like $60 ish on the Gasly. Now, this is one where you start to go, okay, well, this is pretty popular. If the EV's in the 80s, maybe the Gasly is undervalued, and this is one that has more uptick. You see what I'm saying? It's not always like a whoa explosive growth. Maybe we should be careful. There's two sides to the coin on everything. So just keep in mind, you know, um, what cards like the Ghastly are doing. It's a little bit different. If you guys understand what I'm saying. So, and just to reiterate again, I like the Drowsy card. I like the art on it. I just, I'm not a big Drowsy fan. If you're a Drowsy fan, that's great. There's fans of every single Pokemon, right? And Slowpoke too. I like it. He's derpy. I just don't love it at $40. So I'm not gonna chase this card. If I didn't have this card and I didn't have this card, I would just be waiting, for this, and I would wait a little bit more on the Drowsy personally. Um, but you know, there is that other thing where it kind of the Greninja is a little bit different, but to use it as an example, where it kind of takes off and it kind of just like it kind of goes and it gains popularity because once people see a card get expensive, it really changes their perspective on it just based on the monetary value alone. It's just something that happens. It's human nature. So there is a world in which some of these cards just end up higher, even though you look at it and you go, I don't think it should be valued that high, right? So it's just something that happens. But Raichu at 50, Houndoom's near it. That kind of makes sense. I don't know. I still feel like maybe the Raichu should be up a little bit more comparatively. The Eevee being at this price makes sense, right? So, and the Ghastly, I think comparatively, the Ghastly probably has room to run maybe a little bit. Maybe level out at this price. That's the thing also too, is nobody can know, right? Anybody who says that they know what these cards are going to do, they don't know. I don't know. The people who have been in the hobby longer than me don't know, right? Nobody can know for certain. But you just try to use your best like educated guess and logic, and just be okay sometimes with missing out. Like if you missed out on the Drowsy at 85, then you did a good thing, right? That's all I'm saying. And so just be careful of the Slowpoke, stuff like that. That's when my philosophy, once again, I know you see slabs on the wall here. These are slabs that I like that are in my collection. I'm not investing in them. I'm not flipping them. They're staying in my personal collection forever, with some small exceptions. I think I might have one or two listed on eBay right now. Like literally like one or two. If you want to check my eBay, what I have listed, it's in the description if you want to check it out. But a little bit, we talked about some no-brainers sealed recently with Astral Radiance, some Sword and Shield stuff. Temporal Forces is the last booster box, still available at MSRP, right? Once this sells out on the Pokemon Center, we're going to see Temporal Forces booster boxes to shoot up in price. So this is your last chance to snag this at MSRP. It's a much safer play in my opinion. Paradox Rift, these older sets not really likely to get reprints. Even at $180, I like Paradox Rift. Then there's the other bigger sets. Once again, talked about these recently. I just feel like they're much safer. This Lost Origin has already retraced, and you can see what it did, right? It's not like sealed product, even in this market, doesn't retrace, but you can see what it did. It was at 380. Okay, it retraced down to 340, 339. Okay, and now it's starting to rise again. So sealed has ebbs and flows as well, but overall it's has a much proven track record of being more reliable and more stable. So that's why I lean towards having sealed product, booster boxes, PC ETBs specifically. And then it also, if you don't want to spend this money on these booster boxes, right? I get it. $300, 360, 370 right now for Lost Origin, 180 here or 160. Although this is MSRP, so this is kind of right. This is MSRP. Pre-orders for new sets, it's hard to even get them at MSRP now. If you can get a newer set, if you want to get try to get your Destined Rivals, your Journey Together, your newer sets at release at MSRP, then waiting and missing out on stuff now, then that's totally fine approach when it comes to sealed as well. It's tough to get product right now, so keep that in mind. But this is readily available. Temporal Forces is readily available. This is readily available on the secondary market. So these are available. Fusion Strike, once again, it was high, and I get it. It's a lot to pay for a booster box, but Fusion Strike has a high ceiling. Evolving Skies has a high ceiling. It's just, I'm just gonna, once again, a little bit of a rant, more of a ranty video. I do apologize if you don't like that. It's not what we normally do on the channel, but just wanted to talk about a few issues at hand that I think are worth mentioning. So that's why I like sealed even at $450, even at $500. I like Fusion Strike because I believe in the long term. Once again, also too, I don't know if I mentioned time frame. Most of my time frame is 5 to 10 plus years. Kind of 5 years being the minimum, where it would be kind of like, oh, in 5 years, maybe we'll sell a Fusion Strike box or two to offset some of our cost basis. So then we can let the rest ride kind of thing. So Fusion Strike, you have Evolving Skies, same thing. I believe in Evolving Skies even at these prices because I think the ceiling for Evolving Skies is very high. Now, not a lot of people aren't going to spend $1,300 on a booster box. I understand that, right? So that's why there's other choices for sealed. And I get it, maybe why people go for singles because they go, oh, well, I can afford multiple Ghastlies at 57 versus one booster box. So I get it. It's just not where my mind's at. Even Paldea Evolved, which is a great set, it is expensive right now. We're hitting 240 on Paldea Evolved, but I like that more than some of these chasing some of these speculative singles because even with the Paldea Evolved reprint, which how much is it going to retrace? It's going to, even if it retraces a bit, you let it ride and it's going to go up over time, especially in a bull market. So that is the summary of this video. Be cautious with the illustration rare thing. There is a case to be made that illustration rares were undervalued for a long time. I get it. I'm all about it. I love illustration rares. I love all the cards, right? And the argument can be made that they were all undervalued for a while, or most of them. But just be careful with some of these lesser ones that are shooting up big. Don't chase into it. Be okay with missing out. And if you want to take a safer approach to things, that's kind of what sealed is. So I don't do speculative single stuff, really. Very small, very, very small, here and there. There's a few they don't always pan out either. So just keep that in mind. There's cards that I have speculated on, once again, minorly, that haven't panned out, or maybe haven't panned out yet, right? So some of those things take time. So that's all I have for you guys on this one. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully it wasn't too ranty. But I just saw that Slowpoke shooting up, and then I went back to double check on the Drowsy, and the Drowsy's already come down quite a bit. So that's just something, just to think about. And I think if this is correct, it was on the 1 month chart, the Drowsy at the peak was up 176%, and then now it's down to 110. So that's like what is that, a 60% drop? So keep that in mind. Unless my math is wrong, unless this chart is wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But just be okay with missing out on some things. Play it safe. The market's crazy. Don't chase things too crazily. It would be my advice. There's still some deals to be had out there. If you want to play it the safest, like I said, Temporal is at MSRP. MSRP is the play currently. You can't really get stuff lower than MSRP. And if you can, it's really hard. So that's all I got for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you endgame guys in the comments. That's all I get. That's all I have. I'll see you guys tomorrow, every single day. I'll catch you guys. And remember, it was never a phase.